You ever get that feeling that your HOA is just kind of making things up as they go? Well, today we're looking at a fascinating story about one homeowner who decided he wasn't going to just complain about it. Nope, he took them to court. This is a real-life case study in what happens when you challenge the people running your neighborhood.
I mean, it's the ultimate power move in a community association, right? But what really happens? Can one single person actually hold an entire board accountable? Or are you just signing up for a fight you can't possibly win? Well, we're going to get into all the details and find out.
All right, so here's how we're going to break this whole thing down. First, we'll meet the key players. Then, we'll dig into the 5 big claims at the center of the lawsuit. We'll even look at some of the actual testimony to see what was said. And of course, we'll get to the judge's final decision. Then, we'll zoom out and talk about what this all means for anyone living in an HOA.
Okay, first things first. Let's set the stage and meet the main characters in this neighborhood drama. So on one side, you've got Senol Pekin. And get this, he wasn't just any homeowner, he was actually a member of the board he was suing, an insider. And on the other side, the Artesian Ranch Community Association, basically the entire HOA board and their professional management company. So yeah, this was definitely not just some small disagreement. This was a fight coming from inside the house.
So now that we know who was fighting, the big question is, what were they fighting about? Well, it all boiled down to 5 specific accusations that took this from a simple dispute to a full-on court battle.
Yep, 5. Not 1, not 2, 5 separate claims. This suggests that, at least in the petitioner's eyes, this wasn't just a one-time screw-up. It was a pattern, and he decided he wasn't going to let it slide.
And just look at what he was claiming here. It kind of starts with basic procedural stuff, like holding a meeting on the wrong date. But then it escalates, fast. We're talking about who even has the authority to call a meeting, and then it gets really personal. Claims of being illegally stopped from recording a meeting, and even being muted on a Zoom call just to shut him up. These are some pretty serious charges.
So you see a list like that, and you have to wonder, what actually happened? Let's dive into the testimony and look at 2 of the most explosive parts of this case. That meeting that was supposedly called by the wrong person, and the moment a board member got silenced mid-sentence.
Okay, so this board meeting on September 22nd was a huge point of contention. And the whole argument really boiled down to one simple question. Who's in charge here? Did the community manager have the authority to schedule this thing, or was this a major overstep?
And here you can see exactly what the petitioner was thinking in his own words. This is from an email that actually became evidence. He's not beating around the bush. He's telling the manager, who's an employee, that she has 0 right to call a meeting for the board members who were elected. It's a direct challenge.
And this is where it gets tricky, because you have 2 completely different stories. Pekin's version is simple. The manager went rogue and called a meeting herself. But the HOA side is that no, the board president just told her to schedule it. It was a simple verbal instruction. So, who was telling the truth?
And then you get this incredible moment in court. The petitioner himself is questioning the board president, Susanna Roskins, and he asks her point blank, "Did you ask her to organize that meeting?" Her answer? Just one word, yes. That single word changed everything for this part of the case.
But the drama did not stop there. Oh no. The next big fight happened during one very heated Zoom meeting on October 24th. And this one meeting led to 2 more allegations, one about recording and another about being muted.
Okay, so to get what happened next, you have to understand a key piece of Arizona law. It's called the open meeting law. And it's a really big deal. It pretty much guarantees homeowners the right to record open board meetings. And this is the important part. They don't even have to ask for permission. You can just hit record. That law is the backdrop for everything that's about to happen.
So, why did he get muted? Well, according to the HOA manager, Mandy Rogers, it wasn't about silencing him. She testified that he was talking about confidential stuff from a closed-door meeting in an open meeting, which is a big no-no. She was basically saying, hey, I was just trying to stop him from breaking the law. Of course, he saw it completely differently. To him, it was a clear attempt to shut him down.
All right, so you've got conflicting stories, high emotions. It's a lot. In the end, it all landed in the lap of one person, the judge. So how did she untangle this mess? Let's get to the final verdict.
And the ruling was a shocker, a complete split decision. As you can see right here, nobody got a clean sweep. The petitioner, Pekin, won on 2 of his claims. The judge agreed the meeting date was wrong and that they shouldn't have stopped him from recording. But the HOA won on the other 3, including the really big ones about the manager calling the meeting and the whole muting incident. Wow. Talk about a case with no clear winner. So you're probably wondering, how did the HOA win those key points? Well, it all came down to a legal idea called agency, and you can see it in this quote from the judge's decision. She ruled that the manager could legally act as an agent of the board. What that means is, when the board president gave her a verbal order, that was legally the same as the entire board giving the order. That's all it took.
So what about the payout? For the 2 claims he won, the petitioner got $1,000. Now I know what you're thinking, $1,000 doesn't sound like a huge win. But this was never really about the money. It was about the principle. That $1,000 was the court officially saying, you were right and the HOA was wrong on these points. It was a victory, no matter the size.
So look, this whole story is bigger than just one homeowner and one HOA in Arizona. There are lessons in here for absolutely anyone who lives in a community association or serves on a board. So let's talk about the big takeaways from this entire legal showdown.
This case really gives us 4 huge lessons. First, your bylaws are not suggestions. Little details like meeting dates, they are legally binding. Follow them. Second, a manager can act as an agent. A simple verbal go-ahead from a board president can give them legal cover. Third, and this one is so important, state law is king. It doesn't matter what your HOA handbook says, state law will always win. And finally, you can be efficient. It's totally fine to hold an organizational meeting as just one part of a regular board meeting, as long as your rules allow it.
And all of this brings us right back to the beginning. This whole case was a fight over the rules. Who makes them and who has to follow them? It's a powerful reminder that an HOA isn't just a neighborhood club. It's a system of governance. So, the next time you're dealing with your own HOA, maybe ask yourself this question. Do the people on my board truly understand the difference between our little community's bylaws and the actual law of the land? Because as this case proves, not knowing that difference can lead to a very long and very expensive fight.